Welcome back to Philosophy of the Barber. I know it's been a minute since we've done an episode, but welcome back from our Rick and Morty style hiatus. Today's guest is Jed Calhoun, owner of Jed's Barbershop in Keene, New Hampshire. Jed's been a barber for 4 years. He is a graduate from New England School of Barbering, like myself. Welcome, Jed.
How's it going?
It's been a day, right?
Yeah, it has. Pretty nasty weather out, but coming from Keene, it's kind of nice to get out of town for once.
I'll take rain over snow in March. So.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
All right, so we're going to start the same way we start every episode, which is, how did you find your way into this profession?
Yeah, so I'm only 22 years old, so let's see, coming out of high school, I went to a small private school in Dublin, New Hampshire, and from there, we had like all these students that came from like China and everything. So we had this big dorm set up, and all these kids needed haircuts. And I was cutting my hair at the time, like in a mirror, and just, it wasn't good haircuts at all, but it was better than the average salon in Keene. So
and Dublin doesn't have much but like a library.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, they don't have much of anything. So, and these kids couldn't get out. They didn't have a license, so I'd like trade for pizza or something, like give them a haircut in the bathroom. So it became this thing. I'd do it like once a month, senior year of high school. And that got me through like saving up, bought a car with some of the money. And from there, just kind of like spurned on like the interest of like, all right, maybe I could make this into a career. But if not, like that's okay. I'm making some money on the side. And I figured I'd go to college, maybe cut hair, in the dorms, whatever. But that kind of led me to looking into downtown Keene. And my stylist at the time, who had cut my hair growing up, she actually recommended me to this guy, Shalem. He went to barber school at New England School of Barbering and said he had just graduated, opened up shop, and he should check it out. He's like an actual barber, and he's busy, so maybe he's looking for someone. And then from there, I actually went and brought my dad kind of as a guinea pig. I was super skeptical, like, I cut my own hair, like, I know my hair best. And then I was cutting my dad's hair at the time, too, and it was bad haircuts I was giving him. So, I had Shalem cut his hair, and I was telling Shalem, okay, cutting hair on the side, like, high school. Showed him some photos, and I could tell he was, like, holding back, like, oh, yeah, that's good, like, trying to keep, the momentum going for me. But he's like, like, I'm pretty overwhelmed here at the shop. If you want to check out barber school, like, it's like a 6-month program. Maybe you go through that. Things go well, like, I'd be willing to hire you. So, like, I was, like, halfway through senior year of high school, and for me, I was like, yeah, that could actually be pretty cool. Let's do it. So from there, he kind of gave me the in with Mr. and Miss C, and then I got the tour and was sold. I was like, this is what I want to do. So from then on, I wasn't sure if I was going to open up a shop or not right away. I figured it might be good to learn under Shalem for a bit and then kind of branch off from there, in the time that kind of passes on.
I figure there's not too many straight out of high school that are like, yeah, I'm totally going to own my own business.
No way. And I was like, maybe I should go to business school first and then pursue barbering. And I had visited a few schools, and I was like, I'm not a book learner, so I would not want to do any programs past like 2 years. It's like, if I could just get an associate's, a degree, and then leave, good for me. But it kind of worked out that wasn't the case, and just went to barber school, and honestly, you kind of learn all that you need to learn through there, and then obviously with experience.
Well, that's the nice thing about barbering, is that despite so many like other businesses that somebody could open, especially things like restaurants, we have a fairly simple equation we need to follow. Because we don't have a lot of perishable things.
Right, exactly.
Not a ton of overhead unless you really want it to be.
No, that's true. Yeah, and it's really the skill that like brings people back. So it's the pressure's heavy because it's not a matter of just restocking shelves, people buying the product. It's you're selling and you're creating the product.
Well, and I feel like one of the differences is like, I mean, you can sell stuff for sure, but it's you they're coming back for. So it's
Correct.
Like you're selling you. So if I find that the people that struggle with probably partway through barber school, like the thing you need to learn that's not the technical skill is the how to open up, how to
Yes.
communicate and connect with people. That was one of the things that I had an issue with, like first thing.
Yes, totally.
Mr. and Mrs. C got stories of my ability to have not just a poker face, but like a dead face.
Yeah.
They're like, there's nothing there. You need to like
Yep.
have an emotion.
Yeah, that was the most intimidating thing for me going into barber school. Like coming out of high school, especially a small private school in Dublin, New Hampshire, like you don't get the like any world experience, you know, you don't get interaction from people. So coming out of high school, like they were hitting me pretty hard, you know, and you need to do that. Like they kind of need to break you like a wild horse, just break you of all your bad habits and.
Well, they gotta fill you out first to figure out, all right, what's the strength, what's the weakness, and then
Yes.
turn that weakness into your strength.
Yeah, they definitely did a good job of that. But it was, yeah, I had some good breaking points for sure that kind of made me reconsider, like, maybe this isn't the thing for me. But they'd always come back around and, like, give you the support you need, you know, even in that, like, crazy admonishment and, like, through the discouragement. But
Well, if you're gonna break something down, you kind of gotta like support it so that it heals and grows.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that was, you know, it was crazy that 6 months of schooling, coming out of barber school, I started the week I graduated high school. So it was just from like one thing to the next. And that transition like didn't even allow me any time to like think. It just kind of happened. And that was good because I think I probably would have doubted myself otherwise. You know, in my mind, coming out of high school, you're like, oh, like no more break. Like I'm back in the workforce now, like no breaks. But that was good. Like that pushed me, kind of broke me out of that laziness. So.
Well, and you went to the school in a time when expectations, like things adjust at the school all the time. You know, they're always tweaking procedures and how to best cater their lesson plans to whoever they need to teach, right? And you were there at a time when it was like a little on the stricter side when it came to wardrobe and higher expectations, going, you know, hey, don't be on your phone at all.
Yeah,
I will
totally.
take it from you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a perfect time for me to like rolling into barber school. I had no wardrobe to fit, you know, the requirements, bow ties or the ties and the button downs, like none of that. So that was kind of cool because that allowed me to disconnect from like, I don't know, just the norm and then go into this new phase of life that's like, this is professional. This is, you know, I'm selling the product with my appearance, with the character, you know, and that's definitely shaped me into, you know, the business that I want to give off now. And had I not gone through that and stayed in like the attire that I had, I probably would have been a lot more lazy and, you know, it just would have been a totally different outcome. So that was pretty cool.
Now, let's talk about your shop a little bit because I am in love with the aesthetic that you chose. How/why did you go that route? Because things that are gilded and...
Yeah, so I have a really good friend. He's one of my dad's best friends. They grew up together, and I grew up with him and his kids. So he's quite a bit older than me, and he's just been a collector. You know, I've known him as that. And his house has always been like this really cool, almost Kentucky bourbon bar-esque, prohibition kind of style. And I've always loved that. And once I got into barber school, I told him, like, as soon as I open up shop, I want you to just have free reign on it. So when it came time to opening up, he was like, yep, I've got all this stuff. Like, let's tackle this. Finding the space was the hard part. Initially, I just was ambitious to like just open up anywhere. Like I'm fine to work anywhere. Doesn't have to be great. I'll, you know, build the shop into what I'd like it to be. And then kind of with his help, he was able to slow that thought process down and be like, you know what, you're working, you're making money. Do that and then slowly build your shop to what you want it to be, because you really only get, as an opening a business for your first time, like you get like one chance to like really make it big. So he helped me through that process, and you know, everything from collecting old barn board to like this 1800s barn that was leveled in North Hadley, Mass. We took all the rusted roof off of it, and we used that for like the wainscoting around the shop, and then kind of put some old plank flooring that looked old and distressed, but it's, you know, the newer vinyl stuff. And then for the actual stations themselves, the first piece I bought for that it's an old Victorian drop well dresser, and those are really neat. The first one I bought was 1850s. All the dovetail joints, like the quality of these things is like next to none. You can't even buy anything for a fraction of the price in today's quality.
Right.
So like Facebook Marketplace is where I found everything. And it was pretty cheap too and affordable, but you had to travel an hour like on the weekend or maybe 3 hours to get that one piece, but it was worth it. So it was like probably 4 months of doing that, of piecing things together, that made the shop into what it is.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for having all your ducks in a row before you have the key to turn, versus having turnkey and then slowly adding and building and adjusting. I'm somebody that is constantly changing, building, and adjusting. So that worked best for me because it was like, all right, I got 3 weeks that I can turn the shop into what I need it to be right now, and then I can add things later. So it needed to be functional first, and then as I get free time in between cuts or whatever, I can add things, change things, tweak.
Yeah.
But that's my brain, and that's something I need.
Yes.
So I'm still doing that. 8 years later, I'm still changing things.
Absolutely. And that's been a challenge for me with this shop, is like there's so much potential to add, and it's like I'll do that down free time, and then I'm like, ooh, maybe I over cluttered it, like I'm getting too ambitious here. So it's like it's a fine balance for me too. Like I have all these pieces, so it's more or less now a time of like maybe I'll rotate in this piece this week or this piece. So that's been kind of cool.
Yeah, that's some of the things that you see over there are the things I rotate out.
Yes, that's great. I love that. I know, it's like you get all these collectibles and stuff, and you're like, oh man, like my whole garage at my house is full of antiques right now. I'm like, oh, I could almost turn this into like a little antique shop. But
you should talk to our buddy at Topstone.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, we've been in touch recently. That's been fun. I've got pieced out old barber chairs too, and my first barber chair I bought from Mr. and Miss C at the school, and
didn't we all?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. But I didn't get a headrest, so I've been like makeshifting.
No, do you ever? You never get a headrest from them.
No way. No, I keep them all, because a lot of them are interchangeable with all the chairs, so they'll just keep them. So like I'm like trying to find the right one for this chair, and it's been like 3 years, still haven't found it. And then Andrea at Topstone was like, actually, you know what? I have like 3 of those chairs, so I think I'll be able to hook you up. It's like, oh, that's good. But
what brand chairs do you have at the shop?
So I've got a Belmont from the 40s. I don't remember which style that is, but it's got the pistol grip handle to it. And then I have a Koken 20s chair from Cincinnati, I think. Or no, I think those are St. Louis. Built in St. Louis. And then I have a Reliance barber chair. I think that's from the 30s, and that was built in Cincinnati.
Nice.
So pieced those out, Facebook Marketplace. Came across this guy who was willing to deliver both those chairs for like $200.
Whoa.
Yeah, the price of the chairs were more, but for the delivery, I was like,
it's
absolutely.
like I don't have to travel
Right.
or need a truck or anything.
Exactly. It's like, that's so worth it. Yep. So that was good, and honestly, it was like all these different people and like the timing that just brought it all together. It's like, yep, no doubts, this is going to happen. It was so exciting.
I'm so happy I don't have old chairs anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the thing, is like you fix one thing on one chair, you got to fix the same thing on another, and it's like, oh, I got to relearn this thing.
Well, especially when you have different brands.
Yes, that's true.
It's like, oh, which brake is this?
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, is nothing matches in the shop. It's kind of all the same style, but each station is kind of unique to itself. But it's kind of cool. It caters to the atmosphere we've got.
Nice. Yeah,
Yep.
I think my days of old chairs are done outside of my transition chair that I have on display.
Yes.
But that's a showpiece.
Yeah. That's what chair is that?
That's a Koken from, it's turn of the century because it's
Nice.
wooden with a hydraulic base.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
one of the ones that Mr. and Miss C refinished, or they reupholstered, but it's original finish with the wood and everything.
Whoa.
It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it was expensive.
Yes, I bet.
And I'm not getting rid of it.
Well, those pieces of history too, like I love that with this industry, because those things have been preserved and they're so well built. Like,
especially when they work.
yes,
They'll work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they'll outlive us, I'm sure, still. But
Except for maybe some of the wood holes.
yeah.
The screws are a little worse for the wear.
Yeah.
For anybody like over a 38 waist.
Yes. Yep.
People were smaller back then.
That is true.
So how was it being in Keene? I know, Keene has been a great growing experience. Obviously, the last time I ran into you down there, it was
Yes.
during a really cool conference.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Pre-COVID.
Yes, it was.
So how are things in that neck of the woods? Because, you guys' downtown,
Yeah.
pandemic or no pandemic, is pretty sick.
Yep. Yeah, we, as far as like the effect of COVID downtown, I would say businesses have, taken the measures they need to, and people have been good about supporting local. I would say as far as for like business-wise for us, like people's, they won't go out as often, so they're stretching their haircuts out maybe an extra 2 or 3 weeks. But, we still have plenty of clientele to go around. But it's caused our days to be a little slower. But we also have had like a few barbershops pop open since COVID, which is really interesting. There's been
In addition to yours?
In addition to mine, yep. There's Keene Barber, my friend John,
Yeah,
who
John
also
Brown,
went to barber school. And there's another guy I haven't met yet. I think it's called Twisted Up Barbershop. It's just opening up. But between the two of those, like, it's kind of surprising to see how busy, like, all of us have been, even starting up new businesses. And with that, like, Keene's come around all of us and, like, put ads in the article, Sentinel, just, like, shining light, like, here's some good news coming out of COVID. Like, here's some good things to look at.
Yeah, I was really impressed when I went down to see how much community support and engagement that you guys have available to you down there.
Yeah.
Like, their outreach is
Yes.
on another level. I
It
wish
is.
Laconia was half that good, and
Yeah.
we're better than a lot of other places.
Yeah, so and the college plays a huge role too there.
True.
Which I don't know if that's the case here so much. More like people
No.
native to this area.
We have the community college, but it's not like in the downtown area the way that Keene is.
Yep.
It's very much like up near the Belmont border.
Okay.
But they have done a lot of things to do outreach. Like they'll host talking points and community forums and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really good, and I think it's funny. There's like enough hair to go around, right, for everyone.
Right?
But it's also like we have some clients that'll even rotate shop to shop because they're like, I love all you guys. I like the
that's
experience
nice.
from each, so it's kind of cool. Like, you have that sense as a barber. You're like, you don't really want to give up your clientele, but when you have some people that just really appreciate the atmosphere and experience from everyone, that's cool. And it's at the end of the day, people are going to come back. They need hair, cut. So.
Well, and that's one of the reasons I like having Cody and Travis down the road is because if for whatever reason we can't fit somebody in and they need to get in, I'm not like hesitant to be like, hey, you know what? They might have an opening down there.
Yes.
Because I'm not going to be worried about them, coming back with a jacked up haircut or like
Exactly.
coming back with a horror story about their experience. I'm like, I want more like good shops around because I want to be proud of my profession outside of
Yes.
my own shop.
Yep, absolutely. No, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, I'd say that's been the nature of the relationships between the other shops and Keene, too, with us. That's a good thing. I like that.
Well, especially being able to, during lockdown and COVID and everything, be able to reach out to people in the area and be like, hey, I got gloves. You got gloves? You need gloves?
Yes. Yep.
You need barbicide?
Absolutely.
How about wipes? You got wipes?
I know. Seriously, it's like scrounging up materials and stuff and, pawning off and trading with each other. We had to do that, too, a few different times because, like, everything was delayed for shipping and all that.
I know.
When things were locked
And then,
down.
like, jacked up in prices.
Yes.
Capes are like $50 per cape.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're making their money, but...
Now I feel like I'm swimming in capes.
Yep. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, we've been, for us, like, we'll do our best to exchange, like, one cape a client and all that. And it's funny because you think back to before, and it's like, we didn't really have to think about any of this. But at the same time, nothing's really changed for us because, like, our license is in, like...
Disinfection.
Exactly. And that's where I was like, oh, we're shut down. But, like, nothing really changes for us, you're more mindful maybe of like wiping down extra surfaces, but that's pretty much it.
That's the thing for us. Yeah, there's not a ton that's changed other
Right.
than having to wear a mask all the time.
Yes. Yep.
And it's like, or the requirement for appointments, which I'm still very irritated with.
Yeah.
Because especially with numbers the way they are right now, like we had our spike, we're down from the spike,
Yeah.
and we're like, yo, Sununu, can we take walk-ins now?
Right.
Because what's the difference
Absolutely.
between us and a restaurant?
Yeah.
Nothing.
That is true though. Yeah, absolutely. And to that, like, it's like you'll have people walk in and it's like, well, just ask them the questions, and then like if you have an opening, might as well take them. But to discourage people from being able to hang out or sit or wait for a little bit, like that's, it's tough because that's the whole barbershop experience too. That's a part of it.
Yes and no. I mean, with us, the way that we did stuff, because our either location is only so many spaces to sit.
True.
I've always had this issue with people like sitting in the barber chair or the barber shop waiting for at least an hour, because that's an hour you could be going places and doing things while you wait.
True.
Which is why we had our sign-in system where, I mean, it's contact tracing built in. It's your name and your phone number, and we'll shoot you a text when it's your turn.
Oh, cool.
So it encouraged people to like walk around downtown, go grab
Yeah.
a coffee, go get lunch,
Absolutely.
go to the post office, run an errand, go to the bank,
Yep.
whatever you got to do. And, stay within a certain leash time frame. It's like stay
Right.
downtown, that way it's within 5 minutes of being able to come back.
Yes.
Because if you're not back in 5 minutes, next person.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
But so that kind of would have been easily incorporated had they given us enough leeway to do that. But
Yeah.
we can't.
Yeah. No, it's true. But yeah, it's been really good to see, people's reaction and support still through all this. Like, we were able to, during the shutdown, do like raffles, to keep people engaged. And I hadn't opened up the shop then. That was back in May. But people were all about like, oh yeah, let's do $5 raffles, for 5 free haircuts or something. And some people were like, yeah, don't even, if I win, just give it to the next person, So it was just cool, like people's energy, and yeah, it was really encouraging.
Well, I think it speaks to your clientele, no matter where you end up. Like, they want to support you. They want to make sure that they can still see you.
Yeah, it is selfishly motivated, right? A little
Well,
bit.
I mean, if you boil something down, far enough, you could find
Yes.
a selfish reason.
Of course.
Even if it's just like, I wanted to feel good.
Yep, of course. Absolutely. Yeah, they want to make sure that they're still taken care of. And
Well, and I think even the most pessimistic person can acknowledge a selfish reason as like, all right, that's legit.
yeah.
I understand it. I can get that.
Yeah.
So if you could just find that, nobody can argue and be like, no, that's not the real reason.
Right.
Be like, look, like I tell my customers, I go, look, step 1 is making you happy. Step 2 is making sure that if I see you out and about in a supermarket and see your haircut, I don't go, ugh.
Right. Yeah. And
It's really me I care about.
yes. No, it is. You're right. And it's your, they're a walking billboard essentially. Like, that's your business out on the streets. So yeah, no, that's cool.
So I'm curious. What do you think? Because I mean, you got to work with Shalem for a good long time, part of your barbering career before you opened up your shop. What were some of the things that you learned that you were really, really like
Yeah.
glad that you were able to pick up in somebody else's shop before you opened? Because
Yeah.
I imagine there's probably quite a few.
Absolutely. So, like, being at barber school, like, it's kind of a limited demographic, as, we had some beard trims that came in, just for our area, like, not a lot of ethnic hair either. So it's like the challenges of just manipulating different hair, different clientele, like, and when, applying that to an actual barber shop, like, in a time constraint, and you're trying to actually sell your service, keep the client engaged. When I went to Shalem's, like, you've got the college, you've got, retirement community, you've got kind of everyone in Keene. And I was kind of just thrown into that mix. It was like, drinking from like a fire hydrant, whatever. But Shalem was really good in that he came by and like gave some extra tips to me that he wasn't really able to pick up maybe at barber school, just because of, the demographic of haircuts that come in. or whatever it was, but he was able to kind of apply that to me, using the skill sets that we learned at school. We already had that common like communication. There was no barrier there, so I was able to like pick up pretty quickly how to do a beard trim, in this way, or whatever that we didn't learn at school per se.
Well, when you were going through, like, beards hadn't hit full peak swing yet.
True. Yeah, the beards weren't.
I got nothing. I got no beard trims in school.
Yes, so true though.
Other than get it off the lip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, lots of mustaches. We had lots of mustaches.
Oh, this is like the kick of the mustache, like the very beginning of the mustache before the beard thing hit.
Yep.
And I remember me and Tyler had to learn on the fly. We're like, so what do you do with that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, and that was the thing is, when I wasn't busy at Shalem's shop, I'd be watching him like a hawk. I'd be asking questions. I'd be getting to know his clients. And before long, like, those clients were almost able to trust me if Shalem wasn't around. So that was kind of cool. I was like, yeah, I know your haircut. I may not be able to do it the same, but like, I know where to go with this. So that was cool because that was trust for Shalem too. He was able to like hand off clients if he was too busy. And like he's an artist at heart. Like he does crazy stuff with paint. And so I was able to learn like hair designs, things like that from him. I remember we did, I don't know how many Patriots logos we did for like the, last 3 Patriots Super Bowls. And, that was fun. That was really cool. And then around the time, I think it was the last Pumpkin Fest, we actually were going to do like hair designs on the street for that. And then they ended up like canceling it. So
yeah, where did that go?
Yeah. Yep. Unfortunately.
Don't worry, it's not the same.
Yeah. But so like with that, I was able to learn a lot of things that I never would have been able to bring to the table had I just opened a business right away at a barber school. And also like just the management of the shop overall, like it's a pretty simple, setup. Like you said, there's not many perishable goods. You don't have to worry about, restocking a whole lot of things, but he just ran a simple shop, and I really appreciated, his vision behind that, like accepting everyone, like most barber shops at the time, at least in Keene, there wasn't anything all that like progressive and just open and accepting everyone into the shop. His shop kind of opened up a way for a lot of people, like, oh yeah, this is kind of a cool thing again. Like I can come in here, feel welcome, and enjoy my experience. So for me, that was like, I hadn't grown up in a barbershop at all. So working in the shop, being able to like offer that experience and like learn how to from Shalem was huge. Like that was a big move in the right direction.
Well, I think there's something to be said for an atmosphere that's created. Because, I mean, you can have 2 shops that are, generally speaking, designed, like, have similar aesthetics. But you can walk in there and feel 2 very different ways.
Oh, of course.
And that's just by the atmosphere that they create.
Yes.
And that makes all the difference.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely does. Yeah, I think that's where he had an upper hand, like, opening when he did, because we have like dozens of salons in Keene, and barbershops there weren't really many, so he chose an awesome time, and people just flooded his shop as soon as they could, because no one was really providing fades or anything as modern day at the time.
Yeah, I mean Shalem opened not terribly long after John Magyar opened his shop in Swansea.
Oh,
so,
yeah, John, yes.
And John's a one-man show,
yes.
And he was overwhelmed with college students and everything, so he was more than happy to,
yes.
go to Shalem.
Absolutely.
Go to the Barbary.
Yep.
Because I ain't got time.
Yes. Oh, John
when kids are, bringing their homework with them to wait.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
Totally.
That's a while.
Right. And the walk-ins, right? Like, I think that was for Shalem where he was able to kind of offer, the appointments, and people couldn't come and go, because with John, he would love to spend his time with the clients.
Yes.
People loved that, and he gave the absolute best haircut you'd ever have leaving that shop, but you had to wait for it.
Meticulous.
Yes. Very. So yeah, it's a bummer since he's moved. We've gotten a lot of his clientele, and you hear about that experience, oh yeah, I'd wait 5 hours, right, and then leave. It was I had to take off half the day, but you leave in with the best haircut. So that's cool too. It's all these different experiences, and
Well,
and stories.
Yeah, there's places for everybody. Like, if you want to be in and out in 10 minutes, there's a place for that.
Yes.
If you want to be there for 5 hours, there's somewhere that will serve you like that. No problem.
Absolutely.
So the more good shops that you have in a single place, it's like, pick your favorite food.
Yep.
And when you get tired of it, pick a new one.
Right. Yes. Yep. Definitely. Yeah, and I think with, this region of New England is more accessible to that. Like, I'd say maybe 5-6 years ago, you didn't have all those options, quite like you do now, which is cool. And I think that's good, because people just get bored, So it's nice to have all the different options. And Keene, right? Since Shalem's opened up, there's been 4 or 5 shops that have opened since, so it's pretty cool. And like I said, there's enough here to go around for everyone.
Yeah, shops in Laconia have doubled since we opened.
Yep.
And I'm like, sweet, bring it on.
Yeah, totally.
We still have the most chairs
Really?
of anybody.
That's awesome.
But, that's by virtue of our size.
Yes.
And
yeah.
we've been very fortunate that, like yourself and your experience at Shalem Shop, everybody here speaks the same
Yes.
New England School of Barbering language.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so huge. That's been had I not, I've held conversations with people that have gone to other schools, and you just don't have quite the same, you can't explain the haircuts in the same way. It's funny.
Yes, because we have such unique jargon that we learn.
Yes.
That it has such a specific definition. It's like French, where it's like,
yeah.
je ne sais quoi. It has a very specific meaning that you can't say in any other language.
Right, absolutely. It's you can't possibly interpret that another way.
Right, so we're just fortunate that we've all got that translator.
Absolutely. Yeah, then, for me moving forward, hiring people at this shop, that's something that I think I'd like to value is, hiring people that also kind of have that same frame of mind, because, you can speak to someone from a different school all day long, but Mr. and Miss C just have a certain way of communicating and embedding that those words, those terminologies to how the action is actually applied, that it just makes your job so much easier. For me, I would think, as a shop owner, training up a new barber, I think New England School of Barbering has the absolute best approach. That's biased, but
yeah, we don't know anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is something to be said for it's a truly immersive experience that you go through when you go through our barber school. And I can't speak to how immersive Empire is or Michael's or any other one. But we do see the difference at the end, because once you leave the school and enter a shop, one of their 2 voices is literally in your head during a haircut.
So true.
And if it's not, that means you're not going to be in this profession very long. Because if they ain't there yet, they ain't gonna be.
Yes, that's so true. Yeah, it's so funny. We'll joke with each other at the shop, little things that Mr. and Miss C would say at the school, yeah, you got potential.
Yeah, the backhanded compliment at the century.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's got this ring to it. It's oh man, PTSD in barber school. As a little trainee, just, yeah. But good times. That was such a fun time. But yeah, I think about how I progressed since, and they give you a foundation to build on. And had I gone back to school, I probably wouldn't be able to articulate, the haircuts quite the same way that I was taught, but the foundation's still there, and that's awesome.
Yes, you we retain how we attack certain haircuts and why we do it that way, and then we found the exceptions, and we know when those sit in the chair. We go, all right, typically I would, but I know better.
Yes, right. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, we just got a new barber in.
Oh, really?
So I'm dealing with a freshie.
Oh, nice.
And by me, I mean everybody else.
Yeah.
Because I'm not on the floor very
effort.
much with everybody else.
Yes. Yep. Also New England School?
Yes.
Rather? Nice. Oh,
in
very
fact,
cool.
she's finished her Barber 1.
Nice.
And she's doing her Master Barber.
Oh, awesome.
So
That's
she's here
cool.
part-time doing both.
Sweet. Yeah, actually, I remember that's what I ended up doing was the first 800 hours of school, licensed to cut hair with Shalem. So I was working 4 days a week and then in school 2 days.
Yep.
So, you know, I have that one day off to do all the homework, to like try to rest my body.
Yeah, she's a little smarter. She's only doing 3 days of work.
Yes. Yep. You got to work smart because you will burn out otherwise.
Yes.
Yep.
And she's not somebody that's straight out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of learn a little life-work balance.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I will say I was thankful that I transitioned to barber school when I did, because my brain was in that learning mode still. Had I taken a year off or 2 years to maybe work somewhere else and then pursue barber school, probably would have been a little more challenging for me. And I'm not a book learner as it is, so barber school, there's plenty of book learning, but it's so applicable that, you know, you're more motivated than you would be.
It's all context, which is everything for me. Because I do recall that I was in an honors chemistry class in high school, and I vaguely recall touching on pH,
Yep.
and I don't remember any of it sticking.
No, not
But
at all.
boy, when we teach it at barber school,
Yep.
you learn it.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely.
Because you need it.
Yep. Yeah, and I love that. I love that part of barber school is it's so applicable, and they make it fun too. So it's like, you know, clients will ask like, oh, well, why do I use conditioner or, you know, shampoo? And it's like, well, let me bring it back to science here, to what I learned in
Science
barber school.
lesson.
I sound smart, but really I'm not. It's just, you know, barber school kind of instilled this into me, and it's applicable, so I enjoy it.
Yes, the lesson we give on a weekly basis. pH.
Yeah. Yep.
And we'll never stop giving that lesson.
No.
I've learned that. It's like, you know what? 8 years of owning a shop, still got to give it every
Yes.
week.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that's okay.
Yep.
We're educating the public one at a time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and people, it's funny, you know, you get all the people too that come in and they bring up all the wives' tales, like, oh, well, I think I might go bald because of this pattern, and I was told this. I'm like, well, actually.
If I shave it, want to grow back thicker, if that were the
Right.
case, I would have a line of bald men waiting.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. This would be a marketed product. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, I mean, sometimes we got to go into the whole, like, oh, am I going to go bald because my mother's father was bald or whatever? It's like, all right, so genetics, right?
Right.
They're complicated. Like, really complicated.
Oh, yes.
So much so that we haven't even solved this problem of,
Yeah.
you know, baldness. Like, it's a fairly simple problem but no, we haven't figured that one out.
Right. And it's like, well, my brother has tons of hair, and he's older than me, and I'm bald. So it's like, oh, how do you explain that one? Like,
Well, we learned such an elementary concept of genetics in school with the box, and it's like
Right.
the dominant, the recessive genes, and it's
Yes.
all right, so this is the probability of getting, you know, one of these 4 or 3 combinations, and it's like, you gotta understand, that dice gets rolled every time.
oh, yes.
So, like, my parents have 4 kids, right? My dad has black hair and brown eyes.
Yep.
Real dominant genes, right? My mom has, like, light brown hair, blue eyes. Recessive genes. Then explain to me why 3 of the 4 kids have blue eyes and light brown hair.
Yeah. You're like, how do you explain that?
Because genetics is
classic.
complicated.
Yes, it is. Yep.
And sometimes we just leave it at that. You go, you know how this vaccine works? If the answer is no, genetics is complicated.
Right. Yep. Science, man. It's beyond me.
There's a reason why you need a doctorate.
Yes.
10 years of school.
And even then, they're still learning.
Yeah, and then even then, it's a practice.
Right? Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, it's always fun. I feel like the more we kind of showcase those weird things that we're licensed to do or that we learn, the more respect people have for the profession. 'Cause,
Yes.
I mean, let's face it. In high school, I had this perspective. I don't know about you, but I did. There was a cosmetology program, and I kind of got this impression, for whatever reason,
Yep.
that the people in the cosmetology program weren't quite smart enough to, like, try for college.
Yeah. No, I get that.
I don't necessarily feel that way now,
Yep.
but I had that very distinct impression, and that's not good,
Yeah.
and that's very inaccurate.
Yeah, man, it's funny, like, I think about, I went back and did the master's program at barber school, and they would even say, we don't like give the best color right classes and all that, but they they give you again that foundation to build on, and that's something I wish that I still pursued. But it's like, as soon as you get into cutting hair, it's like you're devoting all your time usually just cutting hair. And we were talking earlier about this, like I wish that I kind of spent that time either after still honing those skills to color and all that, because I'm licensed to, and it's something that I initially was like super excited to learn and provide as a service. It's like now I'm 4 years into cutting hair, I'm like, oh, where'd all that time go? Like I should have been pouring into these different avenues to offer different services. So it's like a matter of now, like, oh, do I cut back on my hours during the day to learn more or whatnot? And it's like, oh, do I go back to school? So that's something, I think moving forward, my goal would still be to try to hone some of those skills. But the way I've built the shop doesn't allow for a ton of extra services. Like I don't have room for a shampoo bowl, things like that. But, maybe down the road, if expansion happens, I can kind of like invest more into that, that avenue.
That is the nice thing, though, is like at my old shop, there was, room for one shampoo bowl because it was required, right?
Yes.
And 3 stations, and that's it. I didn't have room to do a lot of the auxiliary services that I offer now. And that's one of the reasons that prompted the move, was to expand to have enough room so that I had my own space.
Yes.
And because, for the first 6 years, I wasn't offering galvanic current or, test light frequency or any sort of facial
right.
Services. I wasn't offering hair color or anything. I didn't start offering hair color until last year. But it's like something that you can like be curious in your free time. It's like you find yourself bored and you're like, hey, YouTube, show me what you got.
Right. Absolutely.
And then slowly it kind of clicks, and you might like go peruse over your old barber textbook and see if you remember anything, and see how that clicks, and you go, I think this is a misprint.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Or like those certain notes that Mr. C made you make, and you had no idea why at the time. But then when you go back and look at it after you watch the YouTube video, you're like, this makes sense now.
Yep, absolutely. So true. And it's like he knows that too. He's like, you guys don't know this now, but like this might click in a few years when you actually are like really well versed in, the procedures or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always been a question for me. It's like, do I just dabble in everything, like kind of be a jack of all trades but a master of none, or do I like really hone in on just cutting hair, doing hair well, and then add on these things later on? So that's kind of naturally the progression, I should say, is like kind of just cut hair and focused on that. But, you kind of get bored of it over time.
You do.
So, yeah, and it's like, I've got all this clientele who, none of them really want their hair colored. But on the off chance that one of them does, I want to be able to, like, offer that because they're my client. So it's like, I want to be able to, I've built a really good relationship with some stylists in the area, too, where I'm able to maybe do, like, a collaboration. They do the color, I'll do the haircut. And through that, you just get more motivation to like want to do that alongside of them.
It goes along the lines of some of the conversations I've had with previous guests, where it's, where do barbers find their education if they want it beyond their chair? And I think that the industry is kind of created echo chambers where it's like, all right, colorists, cosmetologists in general are used to getting education all the time.
Yeah.
And part of that, I feel, is where schools choose to build their foundations versus barbering, because it's very, very different. So there's a lot more education and specialization in their focuses as opposed to us, because our foundation is so heavily hair cutting, that there's only so much that you can learn when it comes to how to cut the hair.
Yes.
Right? There's only so much. Like, I can go back to the first textbook of all time and be like, look, when electricity was born.
Right. Yeah, it's
they were still doing the same thing.
Absolutely. Like, maybe there's different avenues to present it, but you're not you're not like reinventing the wheel by any means.
But when it comes to chemical services, there's constantly new science, new formulas coming out, new techniques.
So true.
And
Yeah.
when you like go back and watch America's Next Top Model makeovers, and you're like, those highlights are disgusting.
Yeah. Absolutely.
As opposed to now where it's like
The cheetah
seamless
hair.
and the transition.
Yep. Absolutely.
And it turns into so much of an art so that it's boundless.
Yeah.
So when barbers are looking to continue their education, quite often they just go into whatever a barber is offering, and you go, that's not where you should be. You
Right.
know that. You don't need to
Absolutely.
be there. Go somewhere where you're like the weirdo that you don't look like anybody else.
Right.
Be the one who's in the color class with all the cosmetologists. Be
Yeah.
like, tell me how to do this.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah, I want to be like continue to push in that way because I haven't been in a class in a while, but with COVID, that's obviously kind of hindered that. But those, I feel like of all the haircut classes I've been to, it's been more of like a barber reunion, which is
Right?
awesome. And it's cool because you get that camaraderie, or camaraderie between everyone. It's fun, but I don't feel like I'm really, it's like one person's way of skinning the cat versus the other, and you can learn from each other, but like you said, it's like you're on the edge of your feet all the time with color and chemicals. It's totally different, learning experience.
And I'm personally not a huge fan of going to those barber classes.
Really?
It's not that there's anything wrong with them. I just find the whole situation extremely anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
Like, I am not comfortable in that kind of situation. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of like seeing Mr. C outside of school in a teaching capacity.
Yeah.
There is a very clear difference. And he and I are both naturally introverted,
Yep.
though we are extroverted when it's our environment.
Yes. Yep. That's a good point. That's so true, actually.
But yeah, put me outside my shop and I'm like,
Yep.
where's the corner?
Yeah.
I will grab one friend and attach myself to them the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I can't see myself ever teaching a class. Even when people ask me what I do in my own shop, like why I do it, I'm like, I don't know. I just do it. Like,
Oh,
I'm
I
not
don't
a
like
huge
that
help when
answer.
yeah. Not a huge help when it comes to like instructing anybody, but
I'm a why person. I know every reason why I do things.
that is true. I will say in barber school, like definitely gave me a good grasp on that. Like what, they always had a reason. We could ask the why. They'd always have that answer. So you can always fall back on that.
And, well, that's how I understand the world. I go, if I don't know why I'm doing something, I shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, that is so true.
It keeps you out of trouble.
Yep, definitely does.
I don't know. Why not?
Well,
A lot of people have come up with that answer, did a lot of not great things.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's classic. Yep.
So where do you see yourself in, let's say, we'll go with the next 6 months, because a year's a long time.
Yeah. Well, let's see. It's only been 2 months since the start of the shop's opened, and it's been really consistent. So
And
that's
this is
good.
slow time.
And this is the slow time. So, gearing up into the summer, like my goal is to have more like outreach in the community. We have a really cool plaza where the shop is, where I think we could do a lot of cool like outdoor events. Even if COVID is still kind of a hindrance for gathering, I think we could still do like this back to school or even like summer thing. We usually do a back to school event in August. Like a bunch of us who cut hair in Keene get together at this like pavilion, and we'll do all these haircuts. But this previous year we weren't able to. So I would love to be able to do something like that again. And obviously it's advertisement, but it's really just like getting in touch with the community again and just getting people back together. People have like lost touch with that sense of community, and I think that would be really cool to just spearhead. And as a shop, like that's something we value too. Like we want to be we just want to help out where we can. So, but with that, I would say that's like our kind of my outreach goal Otherwise, within the shop, I'd love to hire another barber. I think we're almost to the point like where we could support another full-time barber. Granted, like not being able to take in walk-ins or advertise that is kind of a struggle. That would be a huge help as soon as we're able to, because then, they're going to fill up. We have a lot of walk-ins, and we just encourage them, just book online, or, we can book you out, for you. So yeah, that's kind of the goal. Other than that, for the interior of the shop, I'm adding this fish tank. I've been in the fish hobby for a while.
I saw that you needed somebody to help move it yesterday.
Yes, yep. So I've got this 8x4 foot frame set up right now. Stands 3 feet off the ground, and the tank itself is 8x4 feet footprint, and it's 2 feet tall. So it's like this monstrosity of this. It's like a pool, and I've got big fish going in there, and so that'll really add to the environment and the atmosphere of the shop, and I think that'll kind of set us apart too, just from any other experience. That'll be kind of cool.
You're looking forward to building your ecosystem?
Yes. Oh yeah. I love that stuff. And everyone's amped up. We've been getting people excited about it, and so that'll be done probably hopefully in the next couple months. And
nice.
With that, just being able to present a nice video, just a well-rounded video showing the shop, the haircuts, the style, the atmosphere. So, but yeah, that's it. That's pretty much our goal moving forward is just keeping people engaged. It's been a really good experience so far, learning together too, because when I first opened up, you kind of have to relearn where all your stuff is and all this, and we're kind of at a point now where all right, we're good where we are, maybe let's add a barber, let's do this, and that's been happening pretty quick. So
yeah, some of those renovation things, deciding where outlets go and what circuits are where, remembering that you have to use a hairdryer.
Right. Yep.
Maybe all of the stations shouldn't be on the same circuit.
Right. Yep. That is so true. Yeah, we had to think about that. I had an electrician thankfully map that all out. It's all right, what are you using for power? Here. So that was good. And the fish tank itself has to be isolated completely.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of power. Yep. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, and then when you gotta do water changes, so you gotta
Yes.
prepare for those things.
Oh yes, I know. And it's oh gosh, if this tank were to ever go, it would devastate the place. So it's
insurance, hey.
Yeah, exactly. I had to make sure that was squared away first. They wanted to make sure everything was structurally sound, and so it's been a process, but we're pretty much ready to make it happen.
I feel like one of the big boy lessons we end up learning as adults is really, especially business owner, is the whole insurance thing. Ultimately, it all comes down to that.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah, and thankfully we haven't had any scares where I even have to think about it, but it's you just prepare for the worst sometimes. Who knows?
Well, and
Never
it's
expect it.
Talk to your agent and be all right, look, I want to make sure that I'm going to be covered no matter what insanity occurs.
Yep.
I know barbershops are really low risk.
Yes. Right.
However,
it's always the freak accidents that sneak up behind you just never expect.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I feel like the further along we go, the more I'm it's like a game of Russian roulette, because it's never a matter of if it happens. It's always a matter of when something happens.
It is true.
It's kind of if you haven't been sick in 5 years, you're I'm overdue.
I'm due. Yeah.
In the game of statistics, I've been winning, but my luck's about to run out.
Yep. And it's probably going to all pile up at once.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, thankfully it hasn't been the case yet, but knock on wood.
Well, the whole 2 months.
Right. Yeah, exactly. A whole 2 months. Things are going good so far.
It sounds like you've been phenomenal so far.
Yeah. Man, it's been such a blessing, for sure. Especially with COVID, it's we have our clientele. I wasn't, worried I'd lose anyone, but it's just it's who knows if there's going to be another shutdown or, what other elements I can't control.
Oh, well.
Right.
I think we've learned that control is really a matter of perspective.
Right. Yeah.
And what you
Yep.
can and can't do has more to do with fines and lawyers.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I've come to the conclusion for, at least. Is I'm not worried about another shutdown
Yep. Yeah.
because I won't be having one.
Correct. Yep. Exactly. I feel that.
But I mean, we are so fortunate in New Hampshire
Yes.
because I had to go back to Ohio for 2 funerals in January.
Oh, man.
It's all good, not COVID related.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the numbers here in Belknap County were like 224 active cases.
Yep.
All right, this is a county of like, I don't know, 35,000 people.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
that's
not
small.
big.
Yep. Yeah.
Like Laconia has 16,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We're a small city.
Yeah.
But the county I went to had like 9,200 and change active cases, and they were lower ranked than they were like the month prior.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like
Wow.
during Christmas they were like some of the highest cases in the state, and so they went down to like some of the second highest cases in the state.
Yep.
So going there versus being here, and checking travel restrictions and all that, I'm like, all right, I get that here we had a spike,
Yeah.
but that's because here was like we never had a first wave, like that, and that's the reality of it. I don't think people really get is that our entire summer we had no wave. We had some cases here and there,
Yeah.
but we actually had 6 weeks where we had 0 active cases up here. And yet we were the massive vacation destination more so than we usually are.
That is true, right? With Bike Week and all that stuff,
Well,
you mean?
the weird bike week that we had,
Yeah.
it was not typical. But just everybody from everywhere else, because we have Winnipesaukee. So, everybody who owns a house on Winnipesaukee, even if it's just for the summer, they were here. Everybody who
Yeah.
had a boat, they were here. As soon as they could rent things, they were full.
Yeah. It's funny. Have you noticed with COVID that you've had a lot of obviously out-of-staters come up and they're living in their summer homes because
Yes.
they're just leaving the city.
Well,
They're
and
out.
with the housing market here,
Yeah.
it was low stock and now it's no stock.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
when you have agents on social media going, do you have a house you want to sell? I have someone who wants to buy it.
Exactly. Yep.
It's a totally different animal. So it's people. I have people who moved from like a different part of New Hampshire because they had
Yeah.
a summer home up here. They sold their house because they could get stupid money for it.
Oh, yeah.
And decide to live in their like cramped condo.
Exactly.
Because number one, they could actually have their kid go to a physical school up here, because we have those who are still going to physical
Still allowing
school.
school to happen.
But also, who's going to say no to making that much money on the house that was already too big for them?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a smart move to sell right now.
Well, yes and no. If you have something extra to sell,
If you can, yeah.
it's a good time to sell.
Yeah, but you gotta live somewhere else. Like
Correct.
you gotta buy, unless you got something lined up, it can be a nightmare.
Yeah, my husband and I, we wanted to buy a house last year, and then we wanted to buy a house this year, and we're like, so
Yep.
we're gonna wait until there's a crash.
Yep. Like looking at the clock. Right. When's this gonna happen?
2023.
Right. Maybe. Hopefully. Yeah. It's so funny, and it's at least in Keene, like we've noticed. And it's just our clientele, right? Like you have people come up from the city and they're kind of complaining like, oh, there's like not much to do up here. Like, well, yeah, no, you did move up here. Like there isn't much, but
Remember why you moved up here?
right. Yep, exactly. Yeah, we have been fortunate. Like as many cases have been in Keene, like people are recovering. That's the important thing. I had COVID back in December and just kind of had to ride it out. And it couldn't have been at a better time because it was the week leading up to opening up the shop. I took off. And as we were building the shop out, I got sick. My grandfather, my dad, like my whole family. And I was like, all right, just got to ride it out. And then, I was able to just like extend my schedule an extra 10 days. Everyone was fine with that. Instead of having to open and then close down again.
Yeah, nobody really, everybody's very understanding when you're open date gets pushed.
Yes.
Especially if it's within a reasonable time. Like if it's within a couple of weeks, they're
Couple
like,
weeks.
all right, that's no problem. Like things
Yep.
happen, scheduling conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
The last inspector didn't show.
Right. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that also ended up being nice because I didn't have to reschedule. Like, just shifted everyone out, and they were like you said, they were super understanding. So.
Now, do you have friends on the West Coast who are in the profession?
Yeah, actually, I do. I haven't been in touch with them so much, but just following like the news, it seems like they're like, oh yeah, you can cut outside, but you can't cut inside for a while during the warmer weather. It's like, well, to me that doesn't seem sanitary at all.
Yeah, we're like, what about the restaurant patio down the street?
Right. Yep. Yeah, exactly. All the hair blown in their food.
That's
and
all
stuff.
I think about is like an ice cream truck next door.
Oh man. Yep. Yeah. Thankfully, I think they've since opened things up for them, but I can't imagine. Like, I know people have moved out, of West Coast areas just so that they can work again. So, yeah, we're blessed here.
Yeah, keeping tabs. I can empathize with the frustration that they've been dealing with out there, and I'm thankful that I haven't had to.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
But it is definitely one of those like, man, hey, you want to buy a plane ticket and get that reciprocity over here?
Right.
I got a chair.
Yep. Absolutely. Helps us both out. Yep.
Well, Jed, thank you so much for coming up to see me. I know it's kind of a hike.
Oh, no, it's totally worth it. Definitely worth the travel.
All right, so we look forward to seeing more from Jed's Barbershop in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing so many pretty pictures with that new fish tank.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll just keep gushing over your aesthetic because it is.
Love it.
It's everything I wish mine was and more.
Oh, no. No, you guys have a good thing going. I love the antiques and, like, furthering just the trade and the actual tradition of it.
And I think one of the best things about barbershops I find is when it is not attached to an individual. When the barbershop becomes its own entity.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
when it's like, perfect.
I agree.
All right. Well, have a wonderful, safe travel, and thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bree.